Do you read Stephen King? Good news, there's a club for you. The Losers Club. And guess what? You don't have to die at the hands of a shape-shifting clown to join. No, all you have to do is tune in every Friday as us losers journey through the never-ending wastelands of King's Dominion. Each week, we'll either spend hours reading between the pages of one of his books or chew on his latest tweets and Hollywood headlines. What's more, we're always having guests over. Thomas Jane, Mick Garris, Jerry O'Connell, Mary Lambert, Will Wheaton, and the list goes on. So what are you waiting for? Join us as we read on through long days and pleasant nights.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Hit the subscribe button right now, wherever you're listening from. Go ahead and hit that so you can keep up with these interviews and then leave a rating and a review as well. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Matt and Kim. They've got a brand new album called Almost Every Day. We'll talk about some of its themes of mortality and how it ties back to Kim getting injured in Mexico. There's also some talk of Arrested Development, the Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes series, and Wild Wild Country, which Matt says could involve him eventually joining a cult. This one's really fun. It's Kyle Meredith with Matt and Kim.
Hey, it's Matt.
How are you?
I'm good. Sweating it out here in LA. It's been a heat wave. Where are you at?
I'm in Louisville, and we too have had that heat wave, so I understand. Yeah.
And then one more question. How you just said it, is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, I'm
Louisville.
Yeah, you don't really hit the Ville so hard. It's like slurred both ways. Like imagine Elvis with marbles in his mouth.
Yeah. Oh. No, I've had this conversation with people, and then how far it'll get taken is always like, oh, it got all the way to, oh. Like, that's something stuck in your throat, or yeah.
It's funny. I always had trouble trying to explain how to say it. How to tell people to say it, rather. And I was reading a magazine, it was like last year, I think, and an artist that's from here, Joan Shelley, was in it, and it was Mojo magazine, or Uncut. It was one of the British magazines anyway. And they explained it like, say it like Elvis would say it. And I said, isn't this funny that it took a magazine from the UK to tell me how to explain how to say my town to other people? So, yeah.
But that's pretty much the perfect explanation, huh?
Yeah, you just say, hey, Louisville. All right, yeah.
Try less. Just do less. Yeah.
We've got we play a sweeper here that you do. It's, Matt and Kim, and you're listening to 91.9 WFPK, and you say radio, and then I can hear it in your voice that you stop, you pause, you think about it, and then you go for it. And you almost hit it, too. It is a pleasure to talk to you both.
Wait, do you have any mouth requirements? Like how mouthy I can get?
You need language requirements?
That's what I meant.
Mouthy. How mouthy I can... You know what? In fact, I do not, because since we are taped, so one version of this, the long unedited version, it actually goes up to Consequence of Sound. And then I take two little small parts of it, and I play that on the air, and I have complete control to play whatever on the air, which means you can cuss as much as you want.
Fuck yeah!
In fact,
Kim
you can do it
hear that.
unnecessarily. You can just cuss even when it doesn't need to be there. Just kind of jam it into a sentence where it's not supposed to be.
I'm telling you, that is my life.
It's true. She'll say things on stage, and afterwards I'll tell her, you said this on stage. She's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, I pull up a video. She gets possessed sometimes.
I'm going to tell you my favorite Matt and Kim live moments. Speaking of those stage moments, you all were playing one of the forecastles. I feel like you've done several of those, but you were here and you were at Forecastle anyway, out on the river, and my mom was there, and she's she's sort of conservative. I mean, she goes to a lot of shows or whatever. I mean, she's not a complete prude about it all, but she's still sort of conservative and rides the line. And she was just asking about good shows, and I wasn't really thinking too much about it. And I was like, well, actually, in fact, Matt and Kim's going to be playing the stage here in about 10 minutes. You should go over there. And she does, and she goes over there. And Kim, about the time she walks up, you jumped up on one of the speakers and stuck your hand down your pants, and sort of like feigned masturbating, and that's her first shot of you all right there. And still, she made it through that whole show and loved it.
Real? See?
All right, I like her stuff.
I feel like you found out something new about your mom that day.
Oh, didn't I? She gets me back. That's how I used to always introduce her, just cold to my friends. I'd be like, this is my mom. And then I would point to her crotch and be like, that's where I came from, to try to embarrass her. So.
You're like, wait, so where are you from? You grew up in? No, I'm from right here.
I'm from right there.
See, I love where this is going.
Yeah,
already.
right.
Good.
This sounds like a conversation in the Schifino household with her family.
Happy to be a part of that. All right, let's do some official business then. September 13th, you guys will be returning to Louisville to the Mercury Ballroom. Happy to have you all part of that and the new record, which is so fun almost every day, which is out now. It's fun, though, because you listen to the music and it's really as fun as ever, and you listen to the words, and I start to think, is this a midlife crisis album already happening? Is that what's going on here?
It's certainly there was.
A need life crisis, can we call it?
It's just you're right, but you're right about a shift. As someone would have, I think, a midlife crisis where they're going through this moment that if everything feels different than it once did. We had that maybe a little bit early, but it was because of Kim's torn ACL that she did on stage in Mexico, and us being forced to take a year off of the road, which both of our entire adult lives we've been touring in this band, and it felt like it was over. We had never taken that kind of time off, and it felt like I was getting some sort of vision of what it would be like when we don't get to do this anymore, and it sucked. It really sucked. So I didn't even realize, Kim, how much references in the album there was to, like, I'm not dead yet, rather be standing on the grass than lying under it. Like, there's all this death stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that's to us, if we can't do this, it's like being dead.
Well, that's dramatic.
That's what I felt like. I am usually a very extremely upbeat person, and I got super depressed during all this because I'm also, like, very active, and I was just stuck in bed and not being able to live the life I wanted to live. And I was like, this fucking sucks. So I think, we write about our lives, and that was what we were going through.
I mean, every band seems to carry that in the back of their mind that it could be over at any point. Like, even when you're riding success, it seems like every artist I talk to is always like, yeah, but it could end at any point. And suddenly you're faced with that in a way. And I'm sure this is well written out there, and you probably had to tell the story a million times, but what exactly happened on the stage that day in Mexico?
It was funny because it was actually after us taking the winter off. So already we had taken a good chunk off that we normally wouldn't do. And it was our first show back, and there was a lot of problems at this festival. Like, in the U.S., this festival would have been evacuated. Like, there was lightning, this crazy storm that came in, but, like, they pushed through, and we were about to go on, and then all of our sound cut from the stage to the speakers. So then there was more delays. And then finally our tour manager was like, okay, we're good to go. Let's do this. And I was like, we got to go out hard. These people have been waiting. And I did the same move that I do every show, run out on stage, jump off the riser. But someone moved a stage fan up where it's not normally. And as I was going to land, I was going to land on it. So I thought, I'll spread my legs and straddle it. But I came down with such force that the bottom half of my leg went one way and the top half went the other. And then I jacked my shit up.
And that's the first thing out of the gates.
Yeah. We had not even gotten to our instruments yet.
So I saw Kim there rolling around on the ground, but she has taken falls on stage before, and I didn't know how bad it was. And I'm asking her if she's okay, and she said she wants to try to play. So we played through like 5 songs, and I could just see how much pain she was in. She wanted to keep going. I told her, this is crazy. We're stopping.
So to take a year off like that, I mean, that's also your livelihood. Was that part of the fear? Like, this is how we make money.
I mean, yes. Luckily, I'm really cheap, and I make us save all of our money. So, like, we were in a good spot where we could take a year off. So, like, at least that wasn't so heavy on our shoulders. But now I'm like, we took a year off, so we need to do every show to make up for that year.
And so,
I'm like telling Matt, you can't buy the organic fruit. That's too expensive. We just the regular stuff.
Now, have you found yourself being gun shy at all? within the show? Did that happen?
When we got back on stage, I remember saying to Kim, you need to kind of think before you step, be aware of your surroundings. I don't think it really slowed her down at all.
I don't jump off the riser anymore too much.
I see you jump off the riser, but you get swept up in the adrenaline of it all, and you just, for better or for worse.
And let me just state that this last tour, Matt, you fell way more than I even stumbled.
Yeah, I took some crashes.
But you didn't tear anything.
Alive, so. No tears, no broken bones. I was convinced for a big portion of my life that I could not break a bone, that it would not happen. All the things I had done with snowboarding and skateboarding stuff growing up. And I would say that, and people are like, ooh, you jinxed yourself. Now it's going to happen. Like, no, I am invincible. I will never break a bone. And then on stage in Denver, I was playing a guitar, which I usually don't do on stage, and I had too much freedom. And I fell off that damn riser. I just broke a finger, but still, it proved I wasn't invincible.
Well, that plays perfectly into what I feel like, is the other theme of this record, because you do get the mortality thing. And so maybe you've accounted a bit for that. But there's a whole other side of this record that talks about looking back, and it's nostalgia, and it's coming to terms with never being able to get back there, which, we're all close to the same age. I'm 36. And, I know that starts creeping in, that moment where you figure out that, okay, I'm maybe I won't live 1,000 years. Maybe it'll only be 800 years instead, or something like that, So where does that come from on the record?
I mean, I do think you notice these days I'm sure you notice it as well, as how much faster the years go by. And our manager, one of his daughters just graduated college. But I'm like, dude, she just started college last week. But remember, when we were all in college, those 4 years felt like such a big chunk of your life. But now 4 years can go by in an instant. But I think, maybe something you're referring to is a song called Like I Used to Be, which the hook is I should be or I could be more. Kim knows I always screw this up.
I should be more.
I should be more like I used to be. I've been blowing lyrics on stage. Maybe that's the old age setting in too. There was one point where I kept messing up the lyrics of this song, Cameras. I just got in my head, and Kim wrote out the entire first verse on 60 sheets of paper and handed them out to the audience before we played the song.
That's genius.
And it worked. You sang it right.
Just out of shame. But I should be more like I used to be. That stems from, there is a thing about when you start finding more success and you start having this team around you, a record label manager, agent, all these people, and everyone's looking at ticket sales and how things are doing, album streams and all of that. And you're comparing everything to other people and what you've done in the past. And it just makes me think about the time when we just started out and it was the two of us playing our instruments and there was no expectations of any success. We never thought we could ever make a living off playing music. And there is something nice about that time, because we still obviously play music because we love it, but I would love none of those other pressures as well. But those things start filtering in your life over time.
I mean, the innocence and the naivety, it does well for what the creative muscle, I guess.
I think so, absolutely. And I think, but part of what made this most recent album, Almost Every Day, special, I think, is we really focused on something we would have done very early on before we ever had a single that worked. Was we just wanted to make a really cool album and not worry about any sort of single that was going to perform on its own. It was more about a body of songs. And that was a cool pressure, that was cool to take that pressure off as well. And in turn, I think, having such things as an a cappella song and a couple instrumental songs and slow songs and fast songs, and it, rather than just all being attempts at making a song that could work on the radio, even if you're making songs you love, but it lets you make these chances on songs that you never expect to be successful. But for example, now we have a song called Happy If You're Happy, which is in our top 5 on Spotify, which is the song that's a minute and a half and it's a cappella. And we never thought it would be a standout song on its own, but people seem to really connect to it.
Well, and I want to bring up it seems like community also played a big part of this. You've got a lot of guests on this record. And they're all great names that we're huge fans of. And I'm pulling out Mark Hoppus, Kevin Morby, Santiago, King Tuff, on and on. Where did that come from? Because I also want to say that the first time I listened through, I hadn't looked at any of the notes. And it never occurred to me, actually, that other people were on this record with you all. Like, it blended together. And when I did figure out that it was happening, it was like, oh, wow, it's like a community record, but it still sounds exactly like a Matt and Kim record.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, we recognize that in a live show, there's this energy about having a bunch of voices singing along, right? They're not in the forefront. They're just singing along, filling out this vibe, adding this magic. And we knew we wanted to have more voices on the record, but Kim said, well, why don't we reach out to some of our friends who play music? And I thought everyone's going to be really busy and no one was going to be able to do it. And like everyone was into it, which was awesome. But yeah, it's not about having specific features. It's funny, if you know where they are and you listen for them and you know that Mark Hoppus is on the Courses of Forever, you're like, oh, that's totally Mark's voice. It was crazy because if you turned them up a little bit, like 2 dB, if you know what that means, it's like it's a Blink-182 song. His voice is so recognizable that boom, that's all you hear. And then you turn it down like 3 dB and he's just completely gone. It was a weird balance.
It was very hard mixing. But also I think that it's interesting because we sent people the song and they sang along with Matt's track. And we realized, I was like, I think people are just like in person, like singing like you. I don't know. It was interesting that take.
Well, I think it happens. I think if anyone is singing along with another voice, they start taking on some of those qualities. But I did notice, we noticed that in some stuff. Even though one of the factors is like I have a very weird relationship with my voice. I think it's probably good that it's specific and it's recognizable and people seem to know what it's a Matt and Kim song when it comes on. But it's also, I wish I could sing better. I wish I didn't sound like me. It's just what I sound like. And I don't seem to have the option to change it. Some people really know how to play with different tones and I'm trying to learn how, but
for what it's worth, I was talking with Nico Case on Friday, and she said the exact same thing. So
really,
yeah. So it's everybody. Yeah, of course it's everybody. But also,
I don't know. You feel like all these people who sing these great songs and have these great voices, they just love hearing themselves sing. But then every now and then you're like, oh no, I don't want to hear that.
I think everybody, I don't know. Most people, I think, would love to hear an impersonation of them to know what they sound like. And you just got like this amazing all-star roster to do exactly that. So that's a cool position to be in.
Yeah. But then, people like Santi Gold and like even Dave from Tokyo Police Club, they have such specific voices that, of course, those things really shine through. But every now and then we'll be in the studio and who's ever producing the track, I'll sing a line and they'll be like, oh, maybe try to sing it more like this. And I don't think they're thinking about it, but they kind of do an impersonation of me. And it's pretty much the most annoying voice I could possibly imagine. I'm like, no, don't do an impersonation.
That's awesome. Well, I know you just announced the second leg of the tour, and those tickets are on sale now. And again, I'll mention that the September 13th, you'll be back here in Louisville to the Mercury. And it's always so fun to hear what you guys are doing with the live set on your tours, because not only do you do your songs, you always incorporate some great covers. What are you doing this time? What are you doing these days?
Which ones? I'm trying to think of what's in the current roster. We were doing the Rihanna Umbrella cover. How old would you say that song is now? It's crazy because it doesn't feel that old, but it's old.
No, I was just so it made the Rolling Stone Top 100 songs of this decade, and I know it's a mid 2000s song. What I didn't know is the songwriters, the duo who wrote that, first gave it to Britney Spears, and she turned it down and said no thanks. And I thought, man, mid 2000s, she really could have used that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. We are doing, can I say, we're doing The Mouth of My Vagina.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't. Not a cover.
It's not a cover, but it's good.
No, that's not the right way we've been saying it. We've been off the road too long. But no, the walls of Kim's vagina. Because, what's traditionally known, I remember from punk shows, as the wall of death, which is where you split the crowd up and you make a line down the middle. But we've made it a more pleasant experience. It's now the walls of Kim's vagina, but it's still shut tight and fast.
Kegels, man, they go a long way.
Amazing. It's fun to say then. I can't wait to be a part of the walls of Kim's vagina. No, I can't say that with a straight face. That's impossible.
Or
wait, tell your mom though. She might be into it.
I will definitely tell my mom that.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Matt. I think you were saying something else there. I completely.
Oh no, I forget. I mean, I was just remembering the other covers. We have Jump, Van Halen. That's in there.
Nice, very nice.
I feel like we got to come up with something new for the second leg of the tour.
Humble. Yeah. We have Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Kim's looking at these like, yeah, we got to add some more stuff. It's tough though. Like, yeah, as you mentioned, we've always done little covers and stuff like that, and sometimes they really work well. Like when we had Bismarcky's Just a Friend, great, but we had to retire it. When we had like Alice DJ, Better Off Alone, great. What do we have? We had Europe.
The Final Countdown.
The Final Countdown.
I feel like we can bring that back around because Arrested Development's back on.
Oh, that's true.
I like that's why we decided to do it.
That's the reason.
Huge fans of Arrested Development.
I saw you all put that on Twitter earlier before the season started. I think you were asking for your favorite character, maybe. I wonder.
Yeah. Well, but mine always keeps changing. Even though this season Buster was killing it for me, he was so good.
Did you all were you on board with it last season? Because I know even to hardcore fans, it was sort of like, but then they remixed it too. So you get like.
Okay, wait, I was on board. Matt wasn't until the remix.
Yeah, the re-edit, which if people didn't know and they gave the first season a shot, it was very cut up and the timeline was very confusing. And I think essentially someone, just a fan, re-edited the timeline to be completely linear and they like put it online. And I think the actual producer saw it and were like, it's kind of better like that. So they did a re-edit it in a proper timeline, and it's way better because then it's not about doing tricks of when things happened. It's about these characters and loving them. That's what I think.
It's going to come to like a Blade Runner standard with Arrested Development. Like, which side are you on?
Yes.
I'll take it either way. Either way, I enjoyed it.
We've done it just dawned on me. We've done, I think, over your career, maybe 3 interviews before today, and I think every single one of them have ended with TV talk. And I didn't mean to do that, but I believe that's actually happened.
No, I like that. That's our thing now. So next time it's gonna happen again.
Yeah, it'll be a different show.
Wait though, can we tell you what we just started watching?
Of course.
Do you know what?
It's called Wild Wild Country. I think.
No. Well, that too. That was really good. But what's the YouTube show?
Oh, Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes.
Hilarious.
I don't know that one.
It's on like YouTube, their subscription service, but it's actually written. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's written really well.
But then the Wild Wild Country, we started these at the same time. Have you seen that on Netflix or whatever?
I know what that one is. I haven't watched it.
Oh my God! The funny thing is, I'm a few episodes in, and we're so well. I actually haven't talked to Kim this. I'm so on the side of the cult. Is that weird?
On the side of the cult.
Yeah, like you would think like, oh, this crazy cult. I don't know if it's going to take a weird turn, but at this point, it's just like they're just trying to live their lives and have this property off the grid and do this thing, and everyone's trying to bring them down. I feel kind of bad.
See, I feel like a cult could get you in real quick, as I would be like, I don't trust it. Like, what are you doing?
You give me that cute little red outfit.
You know what's fun right now is someone who hears this is going to have seen the entire show, and they're going to be like, oh, man. Oh, poor Matt. You don't know what's in store for you.
That's how they got them all.
That's how it happened. Well, it was such a pleasure and always a fun time talking with the both of you. Thank you so much for this. Congrats on the new album. We can't wait to see you in Louisville. It's going to be a fun time.
Thanks so much.
Good to talk to you.
All right.
Talk to you again soon.
We'll see you around. Bye.
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 Hey, thank you to Matt and Kim, the new record almost every day. YouTubers, hit subscribe so you can keep up with the interviews and your favorite artists. Podcast fans, you're probably looking at iTunes, Podchaser, wherever you're getting it from. Hit that subscribe button as well, and then leave a rating and a review. And then head over to WFPK.org, where you hear me do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. There's also some bonus episodes of this series over there. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.